Why do you feel responsible for fixing everyone around you? Why does their pain feel like your emergency? There's something you need to understand that will crack open years of exhaustion, resentment, and confusion. You've been taught that love means sacrifice, that goodness means giving until you're empty. But what if I told you that the moment you stop rescuing others is the exact moment you finally rescue yourself? And what if that's not selfish, it's sacred? If you've been carrying weights that were never yours to carry, hit that like button and subscribe. And I want to hear your truth in the comments. Who have you been trying to save, and what has it cost you? Your story matters. Share it. Let me take you inside one of the most profound discoveries Viktor Frankl made in the concentration camps. He noticed something that haunted him. There were prisoners who gave away their last piece of bread, who comforted others while they themselves were dying, who spent their final energy trying to save everyone around them. And many of them died first. Not because kindness killed them, but because they had confused compassion with self-erasure. Then there were others who maintained boundaries, even in hell. They helped when they could, but they never gave away the core resources they needed to survive. They didn't harden their hearts. They protected their life force. And Frankl realized, you cannot pour from an empty cup is not a cliché. It's a survival principle. The person who saves themselves first is often the person who lives long enough to genuinely help others. Martyrdom might look noble, but sustainability is what actually changes the world. Here's what Andrew Huberman's research reveals about the neuroscience of this pattern. And it's going to explain why you do this, even when it's destroying you. When you rescue someone, when you solve their problem or absorb their pain, your brain releases oxytocin and dopamine, the bonding and reward chemicals. You feel needed. You feel valuable. For a moment, your own emptiness is filled by someone else's gratitude. But here's the trap. This creates a neurological addiction. Your brain starts to require external validation through caretaking to feel worthy. You become dependent on other people's crises to feel significant. It's not that you're codependent because you're weak. You're codependent because your nervous system has been trained to find safety in being needed. And the more you do it, the deeper the neural pathway becomes. But Huberman also shows us the way out. Neuroplasticity means you can rewire this. You can teach your brain that your worth exists independent of your usefulness. But it requires you to do the hardest thing: let people struggle without intervening. Napoleon Hill studied this from the lens of success and achievement, and what he discovered is brutal in its clarity. Every person who accomplished something significant had to learn to say no. Not sometimes, constantly. They had to disappoint people. They had to let others be uncomfortable. They had to refuse demands on their time and energy that seemed reasonable, even noble. Because Hill understood something most people never grasp. Your energy is finite. Every hour you spend solving someone else's self-created problem is an hour stolen from your purpose. He wasn't advocating cruelty. He was advocating stewardship. You are the steward of your life force, your time, your vision. And if you don't guard it, people will consume it without even realizing they're doing it. Hill would tell you, the people who need you to rescue them will drain you completely and then move on to the next rescuer. But the people who genuinely need support will respect your boundaries and use your help as a bridge, not a crutch. Neville Goddard saw this from the spiritual dimension, and his insight will shake you. He taught that everyone is you pushed out, meaning the people in your life are reflecting your internal assumptions back to you. If your life is full of people who need rescuing, ask yourself, what part of me believes I'm only valuable when I'm needed? What part of me is afraid that if I stop fixing, I'll be abandoned? Goddard would say, you're not attracting broken people by accident. You're attracting them because some part of you believes that's your purpose, that's your identity, that's how you earn love. And the moment you change that internal assumption, the moment you decide I am valuable simply because I exist, not because of what I do for others, your external reality will shift. The needy people will fade, the boundary crossers will leave, and people who value reciprocity will appear. This isn't magic. It's the natural reorganization that happens when your self-concept changes. Right now, pause and like this video if you're exhausted from carrying everyone else's burdens. And comment below. What would your life look like if you were as generous with yourself as you are with others? Let's imagine it together. Let me tell you about Marcus. For 15 years, he was the family hero. When his brother got into legal trouble, Marcus paid the lawyers. When his sister's business failed, Marcus covered her rent. When his parents fought, Marcus mediated. He worked 2 jobs to fund other people's mistakes while his own dreams collected dust. One day, his teenage daughter said something that broke him open. "Dad, you're always there for everyone except us. Except yourself." That night, Marcus sat in his car and wept. Not because she was wrong, but because she was right. He'd been so busy being everyone's savior that he'd abandoned the people who actually deserved his presence. and he'd abandoned himself. The next week, when his brother called asking for money again, Marcus said no for the first time in his life. His brother was angry. His family called him selfish. But something incredible happened. Marcus started sleeping through the night. The chronic anxiety that had lived in his chest for years began to ease, and within 6 months, his brother had figured it out on his own, had gotten a job, had learned to stand. Marcus hadn't helped his brother by rescuing him. He'd crippled him. The moment Marcus stopped, his brother finally grew up. Huberman's research on stress and the autonomic nervous system explains exactly what was happening to Marcus. When you're in constant rescue mode, your nervous system never leaves sympathetic activation. You're perpetually in fight or flight, scanning for the next crisis, the next person who needs you. Your body never gets to rest, repair, or regulate. Chronic elevated cortisol suppresses your immune system, disrupts your sleep, impairs your memory and decision-making. You're not just emotionally exhausted, you're physiologically breaking down. But here's the profound part. The moment you set a boundary, the moment you say, "This is not my emergency," your parasympathetic nervous system can finally activate. Your body can finally exhale. Healing isn't something you have to do. It's what your body naturally does when you stop interrupting the process with chronic stress. By saving yourself, you literally allow your biology to function as it was designed. Frankl would frame this through his concept of responsibility. He believed passionately in responsibility. But responsibility for your own life, your own meaning, your own response to circumstances. He watched people in the camps try to take responsibility for things utterly outside their control, and it destroyed them. He also watched people refuse responsibility for their own attitude, their own choices, their own inner life, and that destroyed them too. The wisdom is in knowing the difference. You are responsible for your life. You are not responsible for other adults' choices, consequences, or emotional regulation. When you try to control what you cannot control, you abandon what you can control, yourself. Frankl survived because he took radical responsibility for his inner world, while releasing responsibility for outcomes he couldn't influence. That's not detachment. That's sanity. Hill would make this ruthlessly practical. He'd ask you, what is your definite chief aim? What is the one thing you're here to accomplish? And then he'd ask, how much of your energy is going toward that aim versus going toward other people's problems? If you spent the next year investing in yourself with the same intensity you've been investing in rescuing others, where would you be? Hill believed in service, but strategic service. Service that flows from overflow, not from depletion. He'd tell you, become successful first, abundant first, whole first, then serve from that overflow. Trying to serve from emptiness doesn't make you noble. It makes you ineffective and eventually bitter. Goddard's teaching here is the most challenging and most liberating. He would say you cannot save anyone. You can only save yourself. And in saving yourself, you give others permission to save themselves. When you rescue people, you're actually robbing them of their own hero's journey. You're denying them the struggle that would forge their strength. Goddard believed that struggle is sacred. It's how consciousness expands, how character forms, how people discover their own power. When you intervene in someone's necessary struggle, you're not loving them. You're infantilizing them. True love sometimes looks like stepping back and saying, I believe in your ability to handle this. I'm not abandoning you. I'm honoring your strength. I need you to take a breath right now and ask yourself, who would I be if I wasn't defined by being needed? Drop your answer in the comments. Let's discover together who we actually are beneath the rescuer identity. Here's what happens when you finally stop rescuing. First, people get angry. The ones who've been feeding off your energy will accuse you of changing, of being selfish, of not caring anymore. Let them. Their anger is not your compass. Their discomfort with your boundaries is not evidence that you're wrong. It's evidence that your boundaries are working. Second, you'll feel guilt. You've been conditioned to believe that saying no is cruel. Your nervous system will scream at you to go back to the old pattern. Breathe through it. The guilt is just a habit, not the truth. Third, and this is where it gets beautiful, space opens up. Suddenly you have time. You have energy. You have clarity. You start dreaming again. You remember what you actually want, who you actually are. The authentic you, not the performing, fixing, rescuing you. The real you starts to emerge. And then the most miraculous thing happens. The right people show up. Not people who need you, but people who value you. Not people who drain you, but people who energize you. Relationships become reciprocal. You discover what it feels like to be loved not for what you do, but for who you are. Your children, if you have them, get the present parent they deserve instead of the distracted martyr. Your work improves because you're not fragmented across a dozen emotional emergencies. Your health returns because your nervous system can finally regulate. You're not being selfish by choosing yourself. You're being responsible. You're being sustainable. You're modeling for everyone around you what healthy boundaries look like. Frankl taught that between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is your power to choose. Someone's crisis is the stimulus. Your rescue is the habitual response. But in that space, you can choose differently. You can choose to feel compassion without taking ownership. You can choose to offer support without taking responsibility. You can choose to love without losing yourself. That space is where freedom lives. That's where you finally save yourself. Hill would remind you, you have one life, one chance to build something meaningful, to pursue your purpose, to become who you're capable of becoming. Every moment you spend fixing someone else's self-created chaos is a moment you're stealing from your own potential. That's not abundance thinking. That's poverty thinking, believing that your life only matters in relation to others. Prosperity, success, fulfillment. They require that you become fiercely protective of your energy and your time. Goddard would tell you to go into your imagination right now and see yourself free. See yourself with healthy boundaries, with reciprocal relationships, with time and energy for your own dreams. Feel what that feels like. Assume it's already true, because what you assume, you become. You've been assuming you're the rescuer. Try assuming you're whole. Try assuming everyone around you is capable. Try assuming love doesn't require martyrdom. Live from that assumption for 30 days and watch reality reorganize itself to match. If you're ready to stop rescuing and start living, if you're ready to save yourself so you can genuinely serve others from overflow, like this video and share it with someone who's drowning in everyone else's problems. Subscribe because we're going deeper every time. And tell me in the comments, what's the first boundary you're going to set? Who are you giving back to themselves? Let's walk this path together. I'll see you in the next one.